All right, let's jump right in. We're heading back to the 13th century to talk about a thinker who kind of built a bridge between two completely different worlds, a man who really, truly shaped Western civilization, Thomas Aquinas. But here's the first thing you need to know about this absolute giant of intellect. His classmates had a nickname for him. See, he was a big guy and pretty quiet, slow to speak, so they called him the Dumb Ox. Not exactly the kind of name you'd expect for a future genius, right? Well, his teacher, the brilliant Albertus Magnus, he saw something no one else did. He made this incredible prophecy, and man, was he right. That bellowing would echo for centuries. So how in the world does the dumb ox become one of the most influential people in history? Well, his story doesn't start in a quiet library. It starts with some serious family drama and open rebellion. See, Aquinas was born into a really powerful family, and the plan for his life was already set. He was going to become the abbot of a big, important monastery, keep the family's power and influence going. But when he's 19, Thomas says, nope. He decides he's going to join the Dominicans, a brand new order of friars who owned nothing and lived by begging. For his family, this was a disaster, a total betrayal of his destiny. And their reaction was, well, it was extreme. His own brothers, on their mother's orders, literally kidnapped him on the road. They dragged him back to the family castle and locked him in a room for almost a year, trying to break his will and make him give up this crazy idea. When that didn't work, they got desperate. They hired a prostitute and sent her into his room to seduce him. But Thomas wasn't having it. He grabbed a burning log from the fireplace, chased the woman out, and then burned the sign of the cross into the door. I mean, his conviction was literally forged in fire. After that, his family finally gave up. So after winning that very personal battle, Aquinas walked straight into an even bigger one, a huge intellectual war that was basically tearing Europe apart at the seams. So here's what was happening. For centuries, the works of the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle had been, well, mostly lost to Europe. But now, they were coming back. And these were just a few old scrolls. This was a complete, powerful system for understanding the entire world. Logic, nature, ethics, all based on human reason and observation. And this created a massive crisis. You see, the whole Christian worldview was built on faith, on the idea that truth comes from God's revelation. Now, here comes Aristotle, championing reason, saying truth is something we humans can figure out for ourselves. And in a lot of places, the two seemed to completely contradict each other. It was a showdown, faith versus reason. Could they both be true? This is where Thomas Aquinas comes in. He looked at this huge conflict and saw it differently. He didn't see a battle to be won, he saw a bridge that needed to be built. And this quote, this is the key to his entire philosophy. What he's saying is that faith and reason aren't enemies. For Aquinas, our ability to reason, our nature, is a gift from God. And grace, or faith, doesn't cancel that gift out. It builds on it, it completes it. They were just two different highways leading to the same destination, truth. This painting just illustrates it perfectly. You see Aquinas here literally connecting the world of ancient philosophy, that's Plato and Aristotle over there, with Christian theology on the other side. He took the powerful engine of Aristotle's logic and used it to explore the deepest mysteries of his faith. He created this incredible synthesis of the two. So how did he actually do it? Well, let's look at his most famous set of arguments. They're known as the 5 ways, and they're basically his attempt to prove God's existence using logic. Now here's the brilliant part. Aquinas doesn't start by quoting the Bible. He starts with things you can see and observe in the world around you, using Aristotle's ideas about cause and effect. Take the first one, the mover. He just says, look, things are moving, but nothing can start moving on its own. Something had to give it that first push. Or the second one, the creator. Nothing can create itself, right? So he argues that if you trace these chains of movement and creation backwards, they can't just go on forever. They have to start somewhere. There has to be a first mover, a first cause. He does this for other ideas too, like goodness and design. And that ultimate starting point, he says, that's what everyone calls God. He's using pure reason to walk you right up to the front door of faith. So you'd think, after achieving all this, his legacy would be secure, right? Well, when he died, it was the exact opposite. His ideas were in big trouble. Just look at this timeline. He dies pretty young, in 1274. A mere 3 years later, the Bishop of Paris officially condemns a whole bunch of ideas, including some of Aquinas' work. His reputation was in the mud. But then, jump forward to 1323. Less than 50 years after he died, there's a total 180. He's officially made a saint. I mean, talk about a comeback story. Of course, not everyone buys into his project. The famous 20th century philosopher Bertrand Russell had a pretty sharp critique. He basically argued that Aquinas wasn't a true philosopher because he already knew the answers he wanted to find because of his faith and was just using logic to justify them. He called it special pleading. But the story has one last very mysterious twist. Near the end of his life, after writing millions and millions of words, Aquinas was celebrating Mass and had some kind of intense mystical experience. And after that, he just stopped. He put down his pen and never wrote another word. His friend Reginald begged him, "You have to finish your great work, the Summa Theologica." But Aquinas gave this incredible, haunting reply. He said, "I can't, because everything I've ever written, it all seems like straw to me. All of that brilliant work, dismissed as worthless straw compared to whatever it was he experienced." And legend gives us this one last beautiful story. It said that Christ actually spoke to him from a crucifix, saying, "You have written well of me, Thomas. What reward do you want for all your work?" And Aquinas, the man who built this massive cathedral of intellect, gave the simplest answer you can imagine. "Nothing but you, Lord." Which kind of leaves us with a big question for our own time. I mean, we live in an age of endless information, right? We're drowning in data, but it all feels so fragmented. Aquinas spent his entire life on this quest to show that everything, reason, faith, science, God, all fits together into one beautiful, unified truth. And maybe, just maybe, that's a quest that's more relevant now than it's ever been.